The Council of the Galactic Empire convened in the shadowed halls of their high citadel. Their gleaming civilization, forged over millennia, now faced an unforeseen threat: Earth. Once dismissed as a primitive backwater, Earth's rapid technological rise had unsettled the Empire's rulers. Its people, united under the banner of the United Earth Federation, had unlocked secrets that even the Empire had not fully grasped: quantum energy, artificial intelligence, and most dangerously, advanced military strategies forged from countless human conflicts. Grand Chancellor Torvek, a towering figure draped in regal silks and adorned with an intricate crown of jewels, stood at the head of the chamber. His voice carried the weight of the Empire's long history as he addressed the assembled council. The humans grow bolder with each passing year. Their advancements threaten our superiority. If left unchecked, they will challenge us. We must act. Around him, the council murmured in agreement. These beings, the architects of interstellar order, had rarely faced resistance. Their empire had long been unchallenged, dominant over 100 star systems. But Earth, with its relentless pace of progress and deep-rooted survival instincts, was different. Torvek raised his hand for silence. His gaze shifted to the shadowy figure standing at the far end of the room. Is the plan ready? A small, wiry creature stepped forward: Commander Rylax, leader of the Empire's most feared covert force. His eyes, black as night, bore the glint of one who had seen and caused countless deaths. Yes, Chancellor. The assassins are in place. Earth's leaders will fall. Torvek nodded approvingly. The plan was simple: eliminate humanity's key figures before they had a chance to mount a defense. The Empire had decided Earth could not be defeated by force alone. They needed precision, surgical strikes that would destabilize Earth's leadership and create chaos. Humanity's scientists, strategists, and visionaries would be targeted in the dead of night, cut off before they could usher their people into the stars as a major power. Across the dark expanse of space, the Empire's assassins moved silently. They weren't mere soldiers. They were spectral killers bred for stealth and efficiency, capable of blending into any environment, their forms almost invisible to the naked eye. Each was sent to infiltrate Earth, their mission: extinguish the bright minds that had brought humanity so far. In New York, the United Earth Federation's most influential military general, Marcus Holbrook, stood at his office window, unaware of the hunter that now watched him from the shadows. Holbrook was a symbol of Earth's tenacity, a brilliant strategist who had unified the planet's fractured nations under one defense banner. As the city lights flickered outside, the assassin moved closer, its alien hand reaching for the weapon that would end the general's life. In Sydney, scientist Dr. Jessica Perry sat at her desk, analyzing the latest developments in quantum defense technology. She was one of Earth's brightest minds, responsible for breakthroughs that kept humanity ahead of its alien rivals. The assassin sent after her slithered through the vents, its presence undetectable by any of Earth's sensors, as it prepared to strike. One by one, the assassins completed their missions across the globe. By morning, Earth's most significant leaders would be dead, and the planet would be plunged into disarray. It was a flawless plan, executed with precision. No human could have anticipated the strikes, no defense could have been mounted against such well-hidden foes. In the wake of the assassinations, Earth's silence was deafening. The Galactic Empire's assassins had struck with terrifying precision, leaving chaos in their wake. Across the planet, news of the fallen leaders spread like wildfire. Streets once filled with life now teemed with fear. Without their most brilliant minds and powerful figures, Earth seemed poised for collapse. But in the heart of this confusion, a deeper plan was already unfolding. Yet, in the depths of the United Earth Federation's clandestine operations, there had been whispers of such a threat. In a remote facility buried deep underground, a signal was triggered as the assassinations began. A team of operatives, long kept hidden from the world, was awakened. These were no ordinary soldiers, they were the Boogeymen, humanity's secret defense, trained for the darkest scenarios. The Boogeymen stirred in the shadows, ready to answer humanity's desperate call. The assassins had succeeded in their initial task, but they had unknowingly sparked something far more dangerous. Humanity had been struck, but it would not fall without a fight. The hunt had only just started. Among them was Victor Kane, a figure spoken of in hushed tones even among the Federation's highest ranks. Kane had earned his place as the leader of the Boogeymen through sheer grit, intellect, and an unbreakable will. He had been the Federation's greatest asset, a ghost on the battlefield, appearing only when all hope seemed lost. As the mission briefing illuminated on the screen before him, Kane's eyes narrowed. The assassinations were bold, surgical, and left no trace. No ordinary defense could have stopped them. But Kane and his team were not ordinary defenders. "We're not here to protect Earth," Kane reminded his team, his voice steady and cold. "We're here to protect the future of humanity. The Empire has drawn first blood. Now it's our turn." The Boogeymen had been trained for this exact scenario. Their program had been built on one grim premise: humanity could not always rely on open warfare or diplomacy. Sometimes it would need monsters to protect it from the shadows. And the Boogeymen were those monsters. They operated in secret, unseen and unheard, the invisible guardians against threats that others couldn't even fathom. The team's strategist, Megan Winters, stood next to Kane. Her expertise in counter-assassination tactics had saved countless lives in covert operations, and now she was charged with turning the tide of this interstellar conflict. Her mind worked rapidly, analyzing every angle. "We've already mapped out the Empire's infiltration paths," she said, pulling up detailed holographic projections of Earth and the Empire's vast reach. "They think they've outmaneuvered us by eliminating our top leaders, but they've underestimated our response." Kane nodded, his gaze lingering on the map. "So, what's the plan?" Megan gestured to the holographic display. "The assassins will expect retaliation. What they won't expect is us to hit them at their own game. We'll intercept their remaining operatives before they can escape, track their communications back to their handlers, and from there, dismantle the Empire's covert operations from within." One of the younger operatives, a sharp-eyed man named Devin Holt, looked skeptical. "We're talking about going up against the Empire's best. These assassins aren't just killers, they're shadows. How do we even find them?" A smile crept across Kane's face, cold and knowing. "They may be shadows, but we've been hunting shadows our whole lives. This is what we were born for." As the Boogeymen prepared for their mission, each one knew the risks. The assassins had succeeded in their first wave of attacks, but the Boogeymen were ghosts. They were designed for moments like this, when humanity needed its most dangerous defenders. The Boogeymen moved swiftly and silently across the galaxy. Within days, their infiltration had begun. They slipped past Imperial security checkpoints, hacked into encrypted communications, and began tracking the Empire's remaining assassins. Every move was calculated. Each operation brought them closer to their ultimate target, the heart of the Galactic Empire's covert operations. Victor Kane stood at the center of the command room aboard their stealth cruiser, his icy gaze fixed on a holographic display of the Imperial capital. Megan Winters stood beside him, her sharp mind dissecting the latest intel. The mission had progressed flawlessly, but the next step would be the most dangerous yet, an all-out strike on the Empire's elite strike force, a division so secretive that even the Empire's top brass barely knew of its existence. "We've tracked the last remaining assassins to a remote outpost on the edge of the Empire's territory," Megan said, pointing to a small blinking dot on the map. "The outpost is heavily fortified, and their strike team is on standby." Kane's expression was unreadable. He knew what they were up against. The Empire's elite force was no ordinary unit. They were considered the Empire's apex predators, trained to take down entire armies. And unlike the assassins that had been sent to Earth, they were prepared for direct combat. This battle wouldn't be fought in the shadows. It would be a full-scale confrontation, and there was no room for error. "We've anticipated their moves," Kane replied. "But we need to be smarter. We hit them fast and hard, and we make sure they never see us coming. We've lost too many already. But this is our moment. We strike now, we take them down, and we send a message that humanity won't be broken." Megan added, "We can't afford mistakes. They'll expect us to go for the outpost's defenses first. Instead, we target their command structure. Without leadership, their forces will crumble. The team's youngest member, Devin Holt, spoke up. How do we know they won't anticipate that? They're the Empire's best. They'll be ready for anything. Kane gave him a hard look. They'll be ready for anything, except us. The boogeymen boarded their stealth fighters and set course for the outpost. The journey was silent, every second filled with the weight of what was to come. They had faced impossible odds before, but this time, failure meant not just defeat but the end of everything they had fought to protect. When they arrived, the outpost appeared peaceful, deceptively so. The Imperial strike team had fortified the area, with layers of automated defenses surrounding the perimeter. But the boogeymen had already mapped every possible entry point, and within minutes, they had breached the outer layer. Inside the command center, the Imperial strike team leader, General Korath, watched his monitors with a stoic expression. He was a hulking figure, more machine than man, with cybernetic enhancements that made him nearly indestructible. His reputation alone had been enough to cow entire planets into submission. But today, even he felt a flicker of unease. The boogeymen had proven to be more formidable than the Empire had anticipated. They'll come soon, Korath said to his second-in-command, a sharp-eyed woman named Vera. They're ghosts, but they won't be able to resist a full assault. Vera nodded, her fingers tapping on a control panel. We're ready for them, General. The moment they breach the inner perimeter, they'll be cut down. But just as she spoke, the power flickered. The screens went black for a split second, and in that moment, the boogeymen struck. Kane and his team moved with lethal precision, taking out guards and cutting through layers of security. Before Korath could issue an order, the boogeymen were inside. The battle was brutal and swift. The Empire's elite warriors fought with all the strength and training they had, but the boogeymen were relentless. Kane's blade cut through the air with deadly accuracy, while Megan took out key systems that disrupted the Imperial forces' coordination. In the midst of the chaos, Kane locked eyes with Korath. The two warriors stood still for a brief moment, each sizing up the other. Then, with a roar, Korath lunged. The fight was vicious, both combatants using every ounce of their strength and skill. Korath's cybernetic enhancements made him faster and stronger than any human, but Kane's training and resolve made him more than a match. In the end, it was Kane who stood victorious. Korath fell, his massive frame crumpling to the ground as Kane's blade struck the final blow. The rest of the Imperial forces, seeing their leader fall, broke ranks and retreated. The Empire's strike force had been defeated for now at least, but this victory would only serve as the first ripple in a much larger battle. The galaxy was watching now, and humanity had shown it would not be prey any longer. The Imperial capital burned in the distance, its towering spires crumbling under the relentless assault of the boogeymen. Victor Kane stood aboard the bridge of his ship, staring out at the scene unfolding below. This was no longer a simple mission of vengeance, this was war, and the Galactic Empire, the most powerful force in the known universe, was on the brink of collapse. But even in the face of victory, Kane knew the Empire was not defeated. Somewhere, deep within the labyrinth of the Imperial Palace, lay their final gambit. Intelligence reports had suggested that Emperor Valerian himself was preparing for one last desperate strike and attack that could turn the tide of the war in a single blow. We've received word from our operatives on the ground, Megan Winters said, standing beside Kane. The Emperor is gathering his forces in the throne room. He's planning to deploy a superweapon, something that could wipe out entire fleets in an instant, Kane said. Then we can't give him the chance to use it. The boogeymen had faced impossible odds before, but this time, they were heading straight into the heart of the Empire. Kane knew that if they didn't succeed in neutralizing the Emperor and his weapon, the war would be lost. As they approached the palace, Kane issued his orders with the precision of a seasoned commander. The boogeymen would split into two teams. Kane would lead the first team to the throne room, where they would confront the Emperor directly. Megan would take the second team and disable the weapon's power source. Time was of the essence. If they failed to strike in unison, the consequences could be catastrophic. The mission began in silence. The boogeymen moved through the palace's corridors like shadows, their presence undetected by the remaining Imperial guards. Every step brought them closer to the Emperor's throne room, where the fate of humanity and the galaxy would be decided. When Kane and his team reached the massive doors of the throne room, he took a deep breath. He knew this would be the final confrontation, and there would be no turning back. With a swift motion, he signaled to his team, and they breached the doors. Inside, the throne room was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. It was vast, with towering pillars and grand, ornate designs that spoke of the Empire's former glory. At the far end of the room, seated upon a massive throne of dark metal, was Emperor Valerian. His face was etched with cold determination, and his eyes burned with the intensity of a man who had ruled the galaxy for decades. Surrounding him were his elite guard, warriors dressed in the most advanced armor the Empire had ever produced. "You've come far, Victor Kane," the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "But this is where it ends. For you, and for your species." Kane stepped forward, his gaze locked on the Emperor. "No more threats, Valerian. This ends now." The Emperor rose from his throne, towering over Kane. With a flick of his hand, the elite guards charged forward. The boogeymen met them head-on, their blades and weapons clashing in a whirlwind of violence and fury. Kane cut through his opponents with the precision of a seasoned warrior, his mind focused solely on reaching the Emperor. Meanwhile, Megan's team had reached the core of the superweapon's power source. The room was filled with complex machinery and glowing conduits, all feeding energy into a massive, ominous device. Megan quickly assessed the situation and began planting explosives at key points. "We don't have much time," Megan said to her team. "Once we blow the core, the whole place is going to go up. Be ready to move." Back in the throne room, Kane finally reached the Emperor. The two faced off, each knowing that this battle would decide the fate of their people. Valerian activated a hidden blade, its edge glowing with a deadly energy. Kane drew his own weapon, and the two clashed with a force that shook the room. The fight was brutal. The Emperor's years of combat experience made him a formidable opponent, but Kane fought with the ferocity of a man who had everything to lose. Their blades danced through the air, each strike coming closer to a lethal blow. Just as the Emperor gained the upper hand, a massive explosion rocked the palace. Megan's team had succeeded. The superweapon's power core had been destroyed. The palace began to collapse, and the Emperor, momentarily distracted by the chaos, left an opening. Kane seized the moment, driving his blade into Valerian's chest. The Emperor staggered, his eyes wide with disbelief as he fell to the ground. Kane stood over him, breathing heavily. The war was over. The boogeymen had won. But as the palace crumbled around them, Kane knew this was just the beginning. The Empire was broken, but the galaxy would need to rebuild. And humanity, scarred but unbroken, would rise from the ashes stronger than ever.